was recently on the Joe Rogan Podcast, and he made quite a startling statement. He probably made quite a few startling statements, but here's one. The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. They are exploiting a bug in Western civilization, which is the empathy response. First off, it seems like Elon is saying that empathy is something that is unique to Western civilization. And obviously, that is not the case. Empathy is a universal human reaction. And this video is not going to be a commentary on what Elon said, but it made me ponder this notion of empathy and the fact that many people don't really know what that word means. Often, people use empathy and sympathy interchangeably. While the two words are similar and are related in a way, they mean two very distinct, very different things. There is a reason empathy and sympathy are two different words. And understanding this difference is really important because showing sympathy when empathy is expected can doom a relationship, and conversely, showing empathy when sympathy is more appropriate can cause some very awkward, weird situations. And while both empathy and sympathy are worthwhile qualities, at least in my opinion, they are inherently very different. They serve very different purposes in our lives. And understanding the crucial differences between those two can help us build and maintain successful relationships. The root word in both sympathy and empathy is pathos, which is a Greek word, and it means feeling, suffering, emotion. So both of these words have a meaning that relates in some way to suffering, feeling, emotion. Let's first take a look at the word sympathy. According to Merriam Webster, sympathy is the feeling that you care about and are sorry for someone else's grief or misfortune. Sympathy is about recognizing someone else's emotions, but not necessarily sharing them or feeling them deeply yourself. Sympathy operates more on a cognitive level. It's understanding that someone else is feeling that way. For instance, if your coworker's presentation doesn't go as planned, goes poorly, and the coworker is telling you about it, you can say, "I'm so sorry that happened to you." It's supportive, but it doesn't require you to feel their disappointment as if it were your own, as if that actually happened to you. So sympathy shows caring, shows that you care about the other person, but it maintains an appropriate social distance. When the situation involves someone that you don't really have a close relationship with, sympathy is the appropriate response. And let's be honest, when we feel sympathy, yes, we are being supportive, we do care about the other person, but there's also often a sense of judgment. There's pity. There is also a relief that, you know what, it happened to him, not to me, thank goodness. There is also a desire to give advice, to problem solve. And sympathy is typically expressed during difficult times. Empathy, on the other hand, can be expressed at any time, not just in difficult times. So what does empathy mean? Empathy is understanding and sharing another person's experiences or feelings as if they were your own. For those of you who are Star Trek fans, there is a character in there, Troy, who is an empath. So she literally feels and experiences someone else's feelings as if they were her own. So if somebody is feeling very happy because something went well for them, you share in that happiness. You truly share in that happiness. You're not feeling jealous because they got something and you didn't. No, you truly are experiencing their happiness as if it were your own. So that's what I mean by empathy can be expressed at any times. Typically, when we think of empathy during difficult times, but it doesn't have to be. It also involves looking at things from the other person's perspective and understanding why they feel the way they do. It operates on an emotional level, as opposed to sympathy, which operates more on a cognitive level. So while we said the actions stemming out of sympathy often are giving advice or trying to solve a problem, with empathy, the action is active listening, deep, true active listening, sharing in their feeling, making yourself vulnerable, especially if it is empathy during a difficult time, right? Because what you're doing is you're reaching down deep within yourself to a time when maybe you felt what this other person is feeling, and you're sharing that feeling. You're kind of going back to that place. That's why empathy requires you being vulnerable. Empathy makes the other person feel that they are not alone, that you're there with them. There is no judgment in empathy. So Brene Brown has a beautiful little video that talks about the difference between empathy and sympathy. I'm going to leave a link to that video down in the description below. But essentially it's like a cartoon, and it depicts an animal that has fallen into a deep dark hole, and another animal looks down at the animal in the hole and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're in that hole. I have a sandwich. Do you want a sandwich? Are you hungry?" Right? So that's sympathy. Empathy, on the other hand, shows the animal climbing down into the hole with that other animal and sharing in that feeling and that experience. Okay, so that's a literal depiction. But of course, when we talk about sharing that experience and feeling that experience, we're talking about it metaphorically. So let's again look at the differences between empathy and sympathy. So empathy is more active while sympathy is passive. Empathy can be at all times. Sympathy is usually during difficult times. The action that comes out of empathy is listening and understanding. The action that comes out of sympathy is problem solving or trying to give advice. Empathy is about establishing a connection, and sympathy is about maintaining a distance. Empathy is appropriate for people that are close to you. Sympathy is appropriate for people with whom you don't have close relationships. They're important relationships, but they're not close, emotionally close. Empathy is about understanding and sharing someone else's feelings as if they were your own, while sympathy is acknowledging those feelings in someone else, but from an external perspective. Both are necessary, and both are appropriate in specific contexts. Sympathy helps maintain social ties that are important but not close, and empathy is essential for maintaining close relationships. So now that we have truly dissected and understood the meaning of the word empathy, reflect on the comment that Elon Musk made. Is empathy really the problem that we need to solve? Let me know in the comments below. Before you go, take a moment to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share the video with anyone else that you think will find it interesting or helpful. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next week.